Hello everyone, welcome to the Spaceport. This is Rory, and Andor episode 12 did release today. There's a lot to be talking about. If you did miss anything of the previous episodes, any little bits of information, I did make videos on those on the channel, so you can watch those if you want to. But yeah, let's get straight into this. Make sure to subscribe and like, and yeah, let's go. So the opening of the episode is where Dedra lands on Ferrix with the Death Troopers. And you kind of do see, Dedra looking very serious. And you also see Bix is still in a cell, just looking terrible. Now, the Rebels are also making a bomb as well because, this is going to be a big event going on with Marva's funeral. Because, as we know, Dedra and Cyril's going to try and capture Andor there. Luthen's going to be there. So there's a lot to really go down. And then we see Mothma, who's in a ship. And she's basically talking to Perrin, and she asked the driver to, give them some privacy because she wants to talk about the money. But it's basically just a trick. She says about Perrin's gambling past and wondering where some money has gone. And I think she knows that the driver is like a spy. So the driver, of course, is going to relay this information onto the Empire. And it's basically Mothma's way of tricking the Empire into believing that the money has basically just gone to gambling instead of, her actually transferring the money for the rebellion, which I guess you could call a smart move. But at the same time, I don't know, it's very tough to think about, maybe the Empire would put more, thought into the amount of money and more, like they would look into it more. But I don't know, it kind of does make sense at the same time. And then we see Cassian has some flashback scenes with his dad when he arrives back on Ferrix, which I guess was nice to see. It wasn't totally needed, but yeah, it's always good to have some flashback scenes here and there. Even though it wasn't really a thing in the original trilogy and prequel trilogy, flashbacks, but they've been used a lot more in the shows, and to be fair, I don't mind them. Now, Cassian is also trying to find Bix, but instead finds Pegler. Now, Pegler gave Andor a ship earlier in the series, so, they're talking now, again, because he's back on Ferrix. And Cassian basically finds out about, what's going on with Bix and that she's being tortured from Pegler. And this basically leads to Andor's going to try and save Bix on the, for the whole episode. That's going to be his main goal. Now, Nemik also had a manifesto, which, is shown. And it basically kind of goes through a lot of, motivation for the rebels and basically makes Nemik's death more impactful. And I thought it was a, pretty good thing to include. But then we go on to the Empire finding out about Krieger's attack and how that went forward and no one survived. Ultimately because Luthen made the sacrifice. And, this is something that, the Palpatine wanted to make a statement. And, it kind of does show Luthen's side, that he's not exactly a hero. But that was kind of expected from the last episode. And then Andor says to Brasso that he's going to rescue Bix, and he sees him in the underground part of Ferrix, which Marvel was telling Andor about earlier on in the season as well. Now, Cyril and Sergeant Mosk arrive because they think Andor's going to be at the funeral for Marva, and of course he is, because he's going to try and rescue Bix. And, I think it is good having all these stories kind of tie in together. I think it was pretty good to see that. Now, Luthen is also at the funeral, and basically he's there because he wants to kill Cassian before the Empire can, really question him. And the funeral basically takes place of, the civilians are slowly walking up, and there's the drummer at the top of the tower who's, drumming. And then, they're slowly walking with a brick, which was links to, the ashes of Marva or something. And it's some kind of ceremony thing, basically what they do on Ferrix. And then, they carry it forward, and it almost looks like the Empire and the civilians are going to fight each other, which I'll get into, but it does look like that from them walking forward, but it's just part of the ceremony, and the Empire are really cautious about what's going to go on, so they've set up this perimeter around the area, which I guess is pretty smart. It's a smart thing to do, especially with everything that's gone down already on Ferrix. Dedra is trying to search for Andor at the house because there was basically a spy saying that he saw Andor. And then we see a holo recording that is playing in the middle of the ceremony of Marva, and she's basically saying some inspirational words. And the Empire really don't like this. They try and cover up the droid, and then the holo recording still goes through, and then they kick the droid to the floor, and then the fight starts out, and the fight's pretty good. You see a lot of characters like Dedra in the mix of things. Andor shooting troopers because Andor wants to fight Bix. But overall, it's pretty good to watch, and it was a pretty good fight. Andor does also find Bix and basically sees how broken she is, and he tries to save her. And then a bomb goes off in the middle of the fight. It's pretty cool. It reminded me of in Rogue One when all the fighting breaks out. I think it was on Jeddah, and it was just a cool little, I guess, callback or something. And then you see a group attack Dedra, but Cyril does save her, and you can see for the first time like Dedra is like actually in fear. Now Andor does go to escape the planet with Bix and a few other men there, Brasso, Willem, and this kind of makes you think that this is maybe some sort of group that they're going to be like their own group working to try and go against the Empire. Maybe it will expand, or maybe their departure after this. Maybe this is just for them to all escape. But it was pretty good to see that as well. Now, you do see Mothma, who takes her daughter for the meeting and the possible arranged marriage, and then the scene cuts, so it kind of does presume that it will happen. And of course, Mothma needed to do this so that she could hide the money. But then again, I guess she could have thought of trying to say that her the Perrin had a gambling past, and then they could have had it like that. I don't know. It's a weird one to discuss. We'll talk about it more on the podcast maybe. But yeah, I don't know. These are the first reactions. And then we also see Luthen, who goes to his ship, and he finds Andor snuck on the ship. And Andor basically says, "I join the rebellion or I die." And then Luthen kind of smiles and he's like, "Yeah, okay, mate." And that ends there. And then for some reason there's a post-end credit scene, and the end credit scene, like, there hasn't been one of these in Star Wars, but as we presumed, it was the Death Star being made from the parts in the prison, and it had a really cool shot actually of the Death Star, and it looks like from 2001: Space Odyssey. But yeah, it just looks pretty cool, and that was the ending of the episode. I thought it was a pretty good episode. Good finale. I like how all the characters kind of met each other. It felt really like big and impactful. You saw Dedra, Cyril, you see Luthen, you see all of them, and they all kind of come to this sort of finale. And I don't know what else to say. It was a really good episode, I thought. And I wonder where season 2 is really going to go. I guess Andor and Luthen then probably going to be working together a lot more, and you kind of see Andor's arc of him not wanting to be with the rebellion, and then you can kind of see how he wants to at the end. And I guess this was probably because of the death of Marva for him, or the brutal torture of Bix, and maybe that pushed him on to wanting to join the rebellion. But yeah, that's all I've got to say for the Andor episode 12 finale. We're going to be doing some discussion of this on the podcast. We'll see how this goes, and just get some more thoughts on that. That'll be on, I don't know, sometime the week or the week after. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and leave me some comments about what you thought on the episode. But yeah, have a good one.